Taylor Hayes stood at the edge of the Forrester estate terrace, fingers wrapped tightly around a champagne flute that had long gone warm, her eyes fixed on the glowing Los Angeles skyline. Behind her, laughter echoed from the engagement celebration Ridge Forrester had insisted on throwing that night. Asterisk, asterisk, their asterisk, asterisk night, as he called it. She should have been happy. She had the ring. She had the promise. She had the man. But somewhere deep in her gut, a storm was already gathering, and it was far louder than the orchestra playing inside. Just days earlier, Taylor had done what so many told her never to do again. Asterisk, asterisk, she proposed to Ridge. Asterisk, asterisk, bold. Direct. Vulnerable. And to her amazement, he had said yes. No hesitation. No lingering glances toward the past. Just a simple, heartfelt yes. That moment had felt like a victory not just over Brooke Logan, but over every silent doubt she'd carried for years. She told herself this was the real beginning, the life they had been chasing for decades finally within reach. But the truth, as it always does in Los Angeles, began to crack through the fantasy. Ridge had accepted the proposal, yes, but something about him had shifted almost immediately. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. He touched her, but it felt rehearsed. He spoke of the future, but never once said forever. Taylor saw the signs. She had seen them before. Back when Ridge's love came with caveats, back when her heart was more collateral damage than priority. She tried to ignore it. She told herself that the ring on her finger proved everything, that this time she wasn't second choice. But deep down, she knew. She was lying to herself. Brooke Logan, as always, loomed in the background. Always calm, always composed, always present. Brooke hadn't made a scene when the news broke. She hadn't begged or cried or fought. She'd simply nodded and said, "If he's happy, I'm happy." That, more than anything, unnerved Taylor. Because it wasn't defeat. It was confidence. It was restraint. It was a woman who knew that she didn't need to fight for something that had always come back to her eventually. And that knowledge sat like acid in Taylor's chest. Nick Marone complicated things further. Over lunch at Il Giardino, he'd overheard Ridge and Taylor's engagement conversation and relayed it back to Brooke. Not to cause trouble, but because he still cared. Nick had once loved Brooke fiercely, and seeing her thrown aside yet again stirred something protective in him. He told her the one thing Taylor hadn't wanted Ridge to share. Taylor had proposed first. Brooke's expression didn't change, but her silence said everything. Meanwhile, Ridge found himself spiraling. The guilt he had buried under romance began to bubble. Every word he had spoken to Taylor in the past was now a weight around his neck. He hadn't wanted to break her again. He had seen her rebuild herself after years of heartbreak, trauma, loss. He had watched her smile through pain and pretend she wasn't looking over her shoulder every time Brooke entered the room. Saying yes to her proposal had felt like doing the right thing, but Ridge was starting to realize doing the right thing didn't mean doing what was true. At Forrester Creations, tensions mounted. Steffi tried to be supportive. Thomas avoided the conversation altogether. Even Eric, wise as ever, warned Ridge, "You can't build a life with someone out of guilt. It always collapses." Ridge tried to shake it off, but the words followed him like shadows. He kept seeing Brooke in places she hadn't been, hallways, meetings, even in his dreams. She didn't have to fight anymore. Her absence was louder than her presence had ever been. Then came the confrontation. At Brooke's house, Ridge stopped by under the guise of discussing RJ's upcoming fashion project. The conversation stayed polite until it didn't. Brooke finally said it. "You're marrying Taylor because you don't know how not to hurt her." "That's not love, Ridge. That's penance." Ridge snapped. "Don't do this." Brooke pressed. You've been mine 1,000 times over, in 1,000 different ways. You don't need to marry someone to prove you're a good man. And then, with painful clarity, Ridge said the one thing that shattered the illusion entirely. I didn't say yes because I'm in love with her. I said yes because I couldn't bear to see her broken again. Unbeknownst to Ridge, Taylor had come to the house moments earlier, holding a folder of wedding arrangements and ideas she wanted to run by him. She froze outside the door, hearing every word. The silence was unbearable. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She walked away, folder still in hand, and drove straight to the beach, the same one where she and Ridge had once promised to start over. She sat on the sand, watching the tide erase the footprints in front of her, wondering why she had let herself believe this time would be different. He had done it again, chosen her when it was convenient, left her when it wasn't. Back at Forrester, news of the broken engagement spread quickly. Steffi was livid, ready to confront her father, but Taylor stopped her. "It's over," she said simply. "Let him go." Thomas, for once, agreed. "You deserve someone who wakes up every day and chooses you, no hesitation." The day of the wedding came anyway. Guests began arriving, still unaware of the collapse behind the scenes. Taylor showed up in a simple white dress, hair pulled back, no fanfare. Ridge waited at the altar, heart heavy, knowing he had to tell her the truth. Not knowing she already knew. When the music began, Taylor walked down the aisle, eyes locked on him. But instead of stepping beside him, she stopped halfway and turned to the crowd. Her voice was steady. "I know most of you came here expecting a wedding. But there won't be one." Murmurs erupted. Ridge looked panicked. Taylor smiled bitterly. "I thought if I loved Ridge enough, he'd eventually love me the same way. I thought that if I kept forgiving, he'd stop giving me reasons to. But I was wrong." She turned to Ridge. "You don't owe me guilt, Ridge. You owe me honesty. And you were never honest with me." A beat. Then the words that ended it all. "You broke my heart for the last time." She placed the ring on the altar and walked out, past shocked family members, past photographers, past the life she had almost stepped into. Ridge stood in silence, stunned. And for the first time in decades, Taylor wasn't waiting for him to follow. Brooke stood outside, watching her. "Taylor," she started, but Taylor raised a hand. "Don't. I'm not here to fight for him anymore. I'm here to take back what's left of myself." And she walked away. Weeks passed. Ridge tried to reach out. She ignored him. He tried showing up. She refused to open the door. Brooke never gloated, never mocked, never celebrated. But she didn't take Ridge back, either. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Taylor began rebuilding. Asterisk asterisk, not for Ridge, not for any man asterisk asterisk, but for herself. Therapy sessions resumed. She reconnected with old friends, began volunteering again, traveled to Morocco for a mental health summit. Slowly, the smile that returned to her face wasn't one built on denial or desperate hope. It was real. As for Ridge, he was left alone, ringless, womanless, and finally facing the weight of his choices. The carousel of indecision had stopped, and he realized far too late that loving two women meant eventually losing both. And thus, the words Taylor had once said came true. 8 words that now echoed louder than any vow. "You broke my heart for the last time." This time, she meant it. And this time, she walked away for good. Luna Nozawa sat in her apartment, fingers trembling as she clutched her phone. The screen glowed with the message she had long waited for. Will Spencer had finally replied. After weeks of unanswered texts, silence, and agonizing hope, one single message had shattered the drought. "Hey, can we talk?" That was all it took. She couldn't hide her excitement. She sent back her address instantly and told him to come over. Her mind raced with fantasies she had rehearsed for months, romantic reconciliations, apologies, promises whispered in the dark. She lit candles, changed outfits twice, and kept checking the mirror, each glance revealing more than just nerves. It showed obsession, delusion, hope. What Luna didn't know was that Will wasn't coming for romance. He was coming with a wire. Lieutenant Baker had made sure of that. A team had spent the last 48 hours prepping Will for the sting. Baker knew Luna was dangerous. There were too many red flags, too many close calls involving Steffy Forrester. Will had agreed reluctantly. He had history with Luna, sure, but that history had turned toxic. She had crossed lines, blurred morality with manipulation, and there were whispers she was plotting something lethal. Baker fitted Will with a nearly invisible wire embedded in the seam of his blazer. You get her talking, Baker instructed, and we'll do the rest. From a safe house a few blocks away, Elektra Forrester, Finn, and Steffy sat in silence, watching the live feed transmitted from Will's mic. Every breath, every word would be recorded. Elektra sat tensely, fingers white around the edge of her tablet. Finn watched stoically, his medical instincts already running triage scenarios in his head. Steffy, she watched with cold focus. Luna had been circling her for months now, digging at her public image, undermining her leadership at Forrester Creations, gaslighting mutual friends. But Steffy didn't think it would escalate like this now she wasn't so sure. Will knocked at Luna's door. She opened it immediately, almost breathless, like she'd been standing there waiting the whole time. Her eyes lit up at the sight of him. She smiled too much, talked too fast, pulling him into the room with a familiarity he didn't return. She poured wine. She tried to kiss him right away. Will gently turned his face and smiled. Let's talk first. Back at the safe house, Elektra winced when Luna leaned in for the kiss. Why is she doing that? She asked. Finn replied calmly, she's testing him. Steffy didn't say a word. Inside the apartment, Luna moved too fast. Her excitement bled into unpredictability. She began monologuing. About her dreams, how things could be different, how Steffy had always stood in the way. Will kept her talking, letting her spin. Steffy's not the hero everyone thinks, Luna said, sipping wine with trembling hands. She's poisoned everything she's touched. She made my mother feel invisible. She ruined my family. She's not untouchable. Will leaned forward, careful not to spook her. What are you going to do, Luna? Her eyes flicked up, sharp. I'm going to make her feel small. Like she made me feel. She won't even see it coming. The signal crackled for a second. Elektra adjusted the receiver, heart racing. Luna and Will stood now, facing each other. You think I'm crazy, Luna said. But I'm the only one telling the truth. She reached for him again, and this time he didn't move away. He let her kiss him. Softly, strategically. Back at the safe house, Elektra's mouth dropped open. He's kissing her, she snapped. What is he doing? Finn didn't move. He's doing what it takes. Steffy's eyes narrowed. This better work. But Will had made a mistake. Luna's lips lingered too long against his cheek. Her fingers brushed the collar of his jacket. She felt the seam. Her expression froze. A beat, then another. Her eyes shifted, her whole body stiffened. What's this? She whispered. Will tried to play it off, but she stepped back. Will, what did you do? Her hands trembled, not with fear, but rage. She pulled the collar open and saw it. The wire. The betrayal. You're working with them, she hissed. You came here to trap me. Will's face changed. He dropped the act. Luna, please just listen, but it was too late. She took 3 steps back, reached inside her coat, and pulled out a gun. A small, compact pistol, matte black. "You lied to me," she screamed. "You lied." Will raised his hands. "Don't do this. It doesn't have to end this way." But Luna's mind was unraveling fast. "You kissed me to get a confession. You never loved me. You never meant any of it." Will stepped forward. "Luna, stop," but the sound of the gunshot cut through everything. At the safe house, the audio feed exploded in static. Electra screamed. Finn jumped up. Steffi froze. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." They lost the signal. LAPD units were already en route, but it was too late. By the time they arrived, Luna was gone and Will lay dead, a bullet clean through the chest. Luna had vanished into the night, her coat flapping behind her as she disappeared into the storm-drenched streets of Los Angeles. The rain wiped away blood, footprints, fragments of her plan. But she left behind chaos and just enough clues to start a nationwide manhunt. Steffi's name was scrawled on a wall inside the apartment in red lipstick. She deserves it. Lieutenant Baker took over the case personally. Finn and Steffi refused to stand down. They joined the hunt, city after city, state after state. Luna was cunning, erratic, and armed. In Las Vegas, she was spotted at a pawn shop selling a designer watch belonging to Will. In Denver, a woman matching her description booked a motel room under a fake name and vanished before police arrived. In New Orleans, she broke into a former Forrester employee's home, stole a car, and disappeared again. Meanwhile, Brooke Logan faced her own turmoil. Nick Marone, of all people, had delivered shocking news. He had overheard Taylor proposing to Ridge. At Il Giardino, over a quiet lunch, Taylor had asked Ridge to finally commit, and Ridge had said yes. Brooke was stunned. For months, Ridge had kept her dangling, telling her he needed time, space, patience. But now he was accepting a proposal from Taylor? "Maybe he's trying to spare you," Nick said, "or maybe he's just too afraid to face what he really wants." Brooke was torn. Part of her wanted to confront Ridge. Part of her wanted to let him go. But as Luna's crime dominated the headlines and the Forrester family reeled, Brooke found herself drifting further from Ridge's orbit. Meanwhile, Taylor and Ridge celebrated quietly, a simple dinner, a bottle of wine, a promise. But beneath Taylor's smile was uncertainty. She knew Ridge. She knew when his heart was split. And she could feel it. Brooke wasn't out of his system. Back on the hunt, the chase intensified. Luna left more bodies behind. A carjacking gone wrong in St. Louis, a poisoned informant in Chicago, and a Forrester model found unconscious in a Miami hotel with traces of Luna's DNA on her clothes. Steffi had enough. "She's making it personal. She's targeting everyone connected to me." Finally, in a remote fishing village in Maine, Luna made her last mistake. A local shopkeeper recognized her from the news. When police arrived, she ran toward the harbor, trying to steal a boat. Finn and Steffi arrived seconds later. Luna, cornered, gun drawn, screamed at them. "You all ruined me. All of you." Steffi stood firm. "It's over, Luna." Finn stepped in front of his wife, arms raised. "Put the gun down." Luna cried, shaking, but then she aimed. Not at Steffi. At herself. The gunshot rang out. Luna fell. Blood bloomed on her chest. They rushed to her. Finn applied pressure. Paramedics were called. But she was gone before the helicopter landed. The case was closed. Will was buried with honors. Electra never forgave herself. Brooke, watching Ridge walk down the aisle with Taylor weeks later, knew the truth. He'd never fully come home. Not to her. Not anymore. And somewhere in the silence between all those broken lives, the last whisper of Luna's voice lingered. "You thought I was weak. You thought I'd vanish. But now you'll never forget me.